Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Luckiest T-Shirt. I'm Dan. I'm going to be with you for the next little bit. Today we're talking spoilers. Good old spoilers. Dragons of Tarkir is what we're on today. So let's get right into it after some tasty treats. So this will probably be one of probably the second last pack of Fate Reforged that we're going to open on the show here. So let's get right into it. Right. So the first card up is Soul Summons. Soul Summons is a sorcery that says for 1 and a white, manifest the top card of your library. And it's got the sweet art on it. It says, Ugin's magic reaches beyond the dragons. The clans have adapted it for war. So, yeah, some pretty sick art on there. It's got the old blue manifest. So as far as manifest goes in EDH, in Commander, it doesn't really. That's what I've found. The predictability is just too few and far between. Even creature-based decks have too many non-creature cards between lands and the few enchantments and instants and sorceries that you have. It's just too inconsistent to hit a creature. Even in draft, you're running 17, 18 lands. You're not going to hit a creature like over half the time. Because even if you're running 17 creatures, you're still not running, 23, right? So you got a 23 you got a 17 out of 40 chance in a draft deck to hit that manifest. Though having a 2/2, it's not terrible. Maybe you didn't want to draw the land, so you get your 2/2 instead. So I still love the mechanic. I think the flavor is wicked. I think the flavor's awesome. I'm just not so sure about its usefulness. I'll continue to play with it as we get into Dragons of Tarkir. Who knows? Maybe it's just a little bit before its time. Maybe it works better with the new mechanics that are coming down the road. Maybe it just works better with newer cards. Maybe it works better with all these dragons that are going to be coming out. All right, so let's go to the rare. So the rare today, we've got Monastery Siege. Not a bad little enchantment. I'm not sure if I've covered this one yet. So the sieges come in. You can choose cons or dragons. In other words, you kind of choose who is going to win this battle. So if you choose cons, you get to draw and discard at the beginning of your draw step. And dragons, spells your opponents cast that target you or a permanent you control cost 2 more to cast. So with this one, I tend to go with the draw. And a lot of people think, I've seen people who've misplayed this and they draw and discard on their upkeep, like before their draw for turn. And that's not how it works. When your draw step begins, your new card is in your hand. That is the beginning of your draw step. Then the ability from Monastery Siege resolves. So anything that says at the beginning of your draw step means immediately after you've drawn the card, because drawing the card is the beginning of your draw step. A little something I learned that I pass on to you. All right. So that one was kind of just meh. Right. So we got spoilers up now. We got some cards for Dragons of Tarkir. There are 44 cards spoiled at the moment of this recording. So let's talk about a couple of them. So what I've done is I've gone through and picked a card for each new mechanic, and we'll talk about it a bit. So I'm not going to bury the lead. Let's go right to the new Planeswalker, Narset Transcendent. So this is a 4-mana Planeswalker, 2 white and a blue, that has 6 loyalty to start with. Now, Elspeth costs 6 and started with 4, I believe, and you'd bump it up to 5. This Narset starts with 6, and her ultimate is only -9. So she starts with 6, you go up 1, look at the top card of your library. If it's a non-creature, non-land card, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. So essentially, depending on your deck, drawing you a card maybe a third of the time, again, depending on your deck. If you're running all spells, then it's half the time, a little over half. But if you're running a normal deck, in most formats, you know, you're going to have some percentage of creatures, some percentage of non-creatures, and you know, you're always going to have lands. But in a Narset deck, if you've built it, you know, around her, then you're going to have more spells. So you're going to hit, you know, you're going to draw a card quite often, right? So her -2 says when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell from your hand this turn, it gains rebound. So this brings up our first new mechanic. It's a returning mechanic. I never played with it when it was in, you know, its previous set because I wasn't playing Magic back then. But now it's back. So what rebound says is, I got it written down here. It's around here somewhere. Motherfucker. There it is. Okay, if you cast this spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. So, layman's terms, how this works, you cast the spell now. It doesn't go to your graveyard, it goes to exile. Then on your next upkeep, a trigger happens, says, do you want to cast this from exile? You say yes, and then it casts it. So, if you have Narset out, let's say you just played it, then you delve a Treasure Cruise, you just played it, you -2. Your -2 on Narset resolves. You cast Treasure Cruise, draw 3 cards. Your cruise goes to the bin, or it goes to exile, sorry. Then on your next upkeep, you take Treasure Cruise, cast it without delving or paying any mana, and put it in your graveyard, and draw 3 more cards. So 6 cards seems pretty good. Other busted shit you can do with this card. Extra turns. Hey, it's blue. More cards. Hey, it's blue. You could Terminus twice, I suppose, if you really wanted to. That certainly clears the board. You could Wrath of God twice. Like I said, more extra turns. You can't do that with Temporal Mastery, and a few of the other ones, they exile themselves. So any card, actually, as it resolves, I'll have to look that one up. Exile it as it resolves. You just might be able to get cards that exile. You might be able to cast those again. It was like the old Obsidat Ghost Council. If you used a whip to bring it back from the graveyard and then exiled it at the end of turn, because that satisfies the whip. The whip says, no, yeah, it's cool, it went to exile. Then on your next turn, it came back because the whip was fine with it. The whip was like, no, you exiled it. That's cool. So it could work like that, too. You could cast, like, Temporal Mastery and take an extra turn, and then on that extra turn, cast Temporal Mastery. I'll have to find out. If you know, shoot a comment down on the video and let me know, because that'd be a good one to know. If a spell would exile as part of its resolution normally, does it gain rebound, and can you cast it again the next turn? That's the question. All right. So, then Narset's Ultimate says, -9, you get an emblem with your opponents can't cast non-creature spells. In other words, I get all the instants and sorceries, and you just have creatures. Now, if you're playing a creature deck, sounds great. That's all I'm casting anyway. But if you're playing a normal mix, well, then half of your deck just got nerfed. But chances are, if Narset is using her ultimate, you've already lost the game. If it's one-on-one, yeah, this isn't going to happen for you. You're very likely going to see her -2 a bunch more times, because getting free spells is just good. Like, locking out your opponent, parts of your opponent's deck can be good, but if you don't know their deck, not so good. But if you can start casting shit for free, it's definitely a problem for your opponent. So clearly, Narset, I believe, is going to be Quite the powerful planeswalker. Free spells. Anytime you see anything says cast without paying its mana cost, that can be dangerous. Now, compared to her creature version, her legendary creature version from Cons, where when she attacked, you exile the top 4 and you may cast any non-creature spells without paying their mana cost. Well, that was gross, but she costs 6 to play. And she's a totally breakable commander for Commander. I've done it. My friend did it. You know, if you get to swing with her and she doesn't die, it's very likely you're going to win the game very soon. Just because of the way you can put in extra turn cards, you can put in extra combat cards. But as far as constructed goes, not many people have really busted her because she's a 2/3 or a 3/2 with hexproof. Hexproof is good, but for 6. And her planeswalker version of herself costs 4. 2, a white, and a blue. And it's not even as hard because her regular version had red in it. It was blue, white, red, and 3. And now it's just blue, white, and 2. So this is a planeswalker that we'll see play. If you pull them, you've gotten lucky. I think she's going to put in a lot of work. I could be wrong. Planeswalkers are generally very powerful. I think this one is no exception. All right, enough about that. Next one that has given a stir to the EDH community. This one is called Shamon of the Forgotten Ways. And this is a 3-mana 2/3. That's 2 and a green for a human shaman. And it's a mythic rare. And it taps to add 2 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast creatures. That seems all right. I don't see what the big deal is, you know? Like, okay, it taps for mana, big deal. I don't get why it's mythic. I don't get, oh, there's the rest of the text box there. I see. It says, formidable. Now, formidable is a new keyword, sort of keyword. It's like a reminder mechanic. It's not really a keyword. It says formidable, so you have to look for something on the board that meets that requirement. And in this case, formidable is if you have a total power on the board 8 or greater. Now you're formidable. If you have 7 or less, you're not formidable. If you have 8 or greater, you're formidable. So, formidable. 9 green green. Tap it. Each player's life becomes the number of creatures he controls. So you got 3 creatures, you now have 3 life. You have no creatures, you're dead. 0. If you have -1 creatures, something's gone horribly wrong and you're not playing the game correctly. But if you have 0, you're dead. So, why is this causing a stir? Well, there's an old card called Biorhythm, and I'll see if I can bring it up here. I probably should have done this beforehand. So, Biorhythm is a banned card, and it says, for 6 green green, each player's life total becomes the number of creatures he or she controls. Now, 8 mana is a lot, right? But it's not nearly as much, and this is sorcery speed. So you get to 8 mana, you have 5 creatures, one opponent has 1, the other 2 opponents have 0. You play this, 2 people die immediately. 1 guy stays alive with 1 life, and you have creatures on the board. So that is banned. So that's why people are freaking out about Shamon of the Forgotten Ways, because its ability is a banned enchantment. Now, you don't have to jump through the hoops on Biorhythm that you have to jump through with this guy. You got to have 8 power or more on the board, so he has 2, so you got to have 6 more. So granted, that could be like 2 centaurs. You got 2 3/3s. And in Commander, that's not hard to get to. And then 11 mana and tap it. Put that ability on the stack. Now, here's why I don't think this guy is going to get out of hand, because you have to have all that set up just to be able to activate it. And there are cards in the game now that totally hose this. And if you play around, if this guy is out and has haste, that means he had 15 or 14 mana. So he had 11 plus the 3 to play him, plus whatever was on board to give him haste, plus 8 power or more on the board. So he played him, tapped him, paid it immediately. 2 guys died, 1 guy lived, and he lives with, the 3 creatures he has on board. That's almost fair, right? That's a lot of shit to go through to get this guy off. So that's almost fair. It's still gross. It ends the game pretty much right now, but almost fair. Whereas Biorhythm was, what did I say, 8 mana? That happens right now. There's no conditions. So what I'm saying is I wouldn't put this guy in my deck. This is not a plan that I would go to because Cyclonic Rift, you're dead, right? You put this on the stack. Somebody plays Cyclonic Rift. Someone pops their senseis and puts the senseis on top of their library, draws a card. First card they drew for the turn just happened to be Terminus. I'm dead. Somebody's got a Vidalcan Orrery out, and they cast Day of Judgment. We're all dead, right? Yes, this will end the game, but if there's any sort of control player at the table, this will not work towards anybody's benefit. This is just going to put everybody to 0, and that's it. And if it's a Cyclonic Rift and the other guy has a fucking 2/2 Drake out or something, he wins. He wins with 1 life, and we're all dead. Because it checks the Formidable to be able to activate it. It doesn't check it afterwards. Once it's on the stack, this is happening, right? It says, okay, I have Formidable. I have 8 power more. I do it. That's on the stack. This is going to resolve now. So a lot of people think that it'll check for the Formidable after. And I could be wrong. If I am wrong, again, mention it in the comments. Whatever, right? But I'm pretty sure I'm right because the formidable part of it, and it says activate this only if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater. In other words, activate it, goes on the stack, somebody casts Cyclonic Rift, I lose all my creatures, I go to 0. So I would be afraid to play this card. Gonna move on. And what we're going to next is a guy we've seen before, and a guy who's seen a lot of play in a number of different formats. This guy's name is Stratis Undead Vizier. Now, what he is, he's a 4/6 zombie Naga for 3 and 2 black, so for 5 total. He's a legendary creature, just like the old Sidisi was. The old Sidisi was Saltai and 1. When he comes into play, you mill 3. Each time you mill a creature card, you get a 2/2. But all 3 hit the graveyard at once, so if you hit 3 creatures, you still just get 1 2/2 zombie. And he was a 3/3. This guy's a 4/6, significantly bigger, and he has some text in him. He's 4/6 Death Touch. Why? Maybe that's just a flavor thing. Maybe that's because there's a bit of fighting going on in this set, so having Death Touch is pretty damn good when there's fighting involved. But I'm thinking that might just be a flavor thing. He's black. He's a zombie. He's a snake. He's a zombie snake who's black. And, he should have Death Touch, I guess. But he also has Exploit. Now, this is a new mechanic. It says, when this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. That doesn't necessarily sound like an amazing thing. Hey, you can sacrifice a creature. But as most of you know, having a sacrifice outlet is a very good thing. It can be in the right deck. The deck that wants it, yeah, I want to sack all my shit. I don't want any. Veil of the Nightclad, the deck tech I just put up this weekend. She wants to be sacking her shit. Or at least getting rid of it, or bouncing it, or something, right? So being able to sack something can be good. But there's more. When Sidisi Undead Vizier exploits a creature, you may search your library for a card and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. So, for the cost of sacrificing a creature and playing a 4/6 with Death Touch for 5, 4/6 is pretty good stats. A 6 ass is going to block a lot of things, but it doesn't have flying. Whatever. But for the cost of having a creature that you're willing to sack and 5, you get a 4/6 body and you get to go find a card from your library. And you know what that sounds like to me? An abusable combo toolbox finding machine. So here's the combo I did up with it. You've got Sidisi Undead Vizier. to pair with him, you've got McKay Asst the Unhallowed. So this guy, he is black, and 3. I'm cheating here. I'm trying to type this. I should really do this better. There it is. All right, so McKay Asst the Unhallowed. He is 3 black for a 5/5 with Intimidate. And he's a legendary creature, zombie cleric, so a bit of zombie tribal here. Whenever a human deals damage to you, destroy it. That can be relevant, absolutely can, but here's the best part. Other non-human creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Undying. So Undying is a mechanic from Dark Ascension, where when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. As long as if this creature died with no +1/+1 counters, then return it to the battlefield with one, right? So it's like Persist, except +1/+1 instead. So McKay Asst gives you a sacrifice outlet and bounces Sidisi back to the battlefield. Sounds good, right? But you're not getting a whole lot of value if you just have to sack your McKay Asst. So third part of the combo is your commander, because you're going to put these 3 guys. All 3 are legendary, but you're going to put these 3 guys in this guy's deck. Gave Guru of Spores. If you're not sure what he does, he's 2 and Abzan, so black, green, white. So he costs 5 for a legendary creature, Fungus Shaman. He enters the battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it, so he's base 0/0 with 5 counters. You pay 1 to remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control. Put a 1/1 green Sapperling creature token onto the battlefield. Okay, here's how this works. I play Sidisi Undead Vizier. Maybe I don't have any other creatures that I can exploit. So I pay 1. Gave's second ability. Pay 1, sacrifice a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So I cast Sidisi, the new one. He comes in. I don't have anything to exploit. I pay 1. I sack him. He has Undying. Comes back with a +1/+1 counter. I also get a +1/+1 counter on, McKay Asst, or right onto Gave. Now he's a 6/6. Then I pay 1 to remove that counter. Pay 1 to remove that counter from Sidisi. Pay another 1. When I remove the counter, I get a +1. I get a 1/1 green Sapperling. I'm getting lost here. So for 3 now, I got to sack him twice. He comes back. I get a green Sapperling. I go search for a card. Basically, with these 3 guys on the battlefield, I can go find any card in my deck. Right? I can just go get them. And for an investment of some mana, I can move counters around. I can make 1/1 Sapperlings. I can sack dudes as much as I want. And each time I do, I get to search my library for a card. And chances are you've got some sort of win condition in your deck. So you need lots of mana, but you're in green, so that's fine. You need lots of mana, but you're in black, so that's also fine. And just a little splash of white. So these 3 guys, McKay Asst, the Unhallowed, Gave Guru of Spores, and new guy, Sidisi Undead Vizier. I'm probably going to build it. I'm going to try it out. All right? So moving on. So that was Exploit. Lots of shit you can do with Exploit. Blood Artist triggers, Falcon Wrath Noble triggers. There are all kinds of goblins that like to die and make more goblins, all kinds of stuff. So next we're going to move on to Ojutai's Summons. So this is a blue card for 3 and 2 blue. No, shit, that wasn't the one I wanted. Oh, yeah, that one has Rebound. That's cool. But so for 3 and 2 blue, put a 2/2 blue Djinn Monk creature with flying onto the battlefield. So you get a 2/2 flying token, and it has Rebound. So for 5, you get 2 2/2 flying tokens. We already talked about Rebound. This is potentially a good card. It's sorcery speed, so maybe not that great, but you get 2 flying monks out of it. If you can flash it back out of your graveyard, you can get a whole bunch. The one I wanted to do was Stratis Dancer. For 1 and a blue, you get a 2/1 Djinn monk with flying. But he's also got Megamorph. So this is the 3rd set of the block. We've had Morph, we've had Manifest, and now we've got Megamorph. What is Megamorph? The same thing as Morph, except when you flip it up, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Real easy. So you play this guy face down for 3, and then you pay 1 and a blue for his Megamorph cost to flip him up, and he gets a +1/+1 counter. But he also has this ability. When Stratis Dancer is turned face up, counter target instant or sorcery spell. It's a counter that's sitting on the battlefield. Now, when I play against a Morph, Megamorph, Morph, whatever, now I don't know if one of them is going to counter the spell that I'm about to try and kill you with. So that seems pretty good. But it's rare. You get to open 2 packs of Dragons of Tarkir in draft, so maybe we see these a little bit more often. Who knows? And lastly, this one isn't really a mechanic, but it's definitely a major part of the block. You're going to be seeing this word. We've already seen this word quite often, but now that we're in Dragons of Tarkir, dragons are going to be the thing. So the card I wanted to go to on this one is Dragon Lord's Servant. For 1 and a red, you get a 1/3 Goblin Shaman. Maybe we'll play Shaman Triben. There's lots of Shamans in this set. Dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So this makes all your dragons just a little bit cheaper. There are a bunch of new dragons. We're still not even, I wouldn't say we're even used to the dragons from Fate Reforged. So we have those 5, and we're getting the same 5 dragons, except now they're Dragon Lord, their name, right? So we've got Dragon Lord Dramoka, we've got Dragon Lord Salumgar, and Dragon Lord Kalagan. And we're probably going to see Dragon Lord Atarka and Dragon Lord Ojutai. Whatever their abilities are, I don't know. But they're legendary creatures. These are, they say Elder Dragons on them, so we have 2-color Elder Dragons now. It's the name of the format, Elder Dragon Highlander. Elder Dragon meaning your general is an Elder Dragon. Well, now we have more of them. Highlander meaning there can be only one card in your deck. 1 copy of each card. So Elder Dragon Highlander, EDH. Or if you prefer Wizard's way of going about it, Commander. Now your commanders are Elder Dragons. So we've got, so far we've got 8 dragons spoiled. There's 3 mythics. Those are the ones I named off there. And we've got 5 rare dragons spoiled, 1 for each brood. Because now the dragons are in broods. We don't have Khan clans. We have dragon broods. So there's the green-white one, which is Arishan Sovereign. It's a 6/6 flyer. We've got a 6/4 flyer. That's the blue-white. We've got a 4/4 flyer. That's the black-blue. 5/4 is red-black. And 5/3 is green-red. So what does this mean? Well, what this means is there's going to be a lot of shit flying on the battlefield now. Someone's going to build a Scion the Ur Dragon deck with all the legendary dragons from this set and the previous set, and maybe even a few of these rare dragons, a few of the uncommon dragons. There are a lot of dragons to choose from now. So if you haven't got an answer to flyers and someone's sitting down with the dragon deck, you're going to have a bad time. It's going to be a rough one. So here's what I recommend. Dig out all your copies of Plummet. Dig out all your copies of Hornet Queen. That could even be good. Anything that says destroy target creature with flying, or anything that says flying, it might be a good idea to start picking those up, especially cheap ones that can maybe block really well. Fog Bank. Everyone go get your Fog Banks. It's an 0-1 that prevents all combat damage to and from it. So it just fogs a dragon. So maybe it's something that should be going in every blue deck. White, go get your copies of Lingering Souls if you're running black. Go get your Spectral Processions if you're not. Get them flying chump blockers up there, because not every dragon's going to be a Tarka. Not every dragon's going to have Trample, so I don't know. It's going to make things kind of interesting. All the creatures up in the air. Or here's one. The blue archetype from Theros block that all your creatures get flying and any of your opponent's creatures can't have flying. If you're playing blue, it's the one to get. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Giant spiders, reach. Reach now just became a little bit more important. So the set looks fun. Looks like there's a lot of cool shit in there. It looks like they're pushing the boundaries a little bit. The 4 mana, 6 loyalty planeswalker. I'm wondering what the other one is. A lot of people think it's going to be Nicol Bolas. Could very well be. Having Ugin in the set without Nicol Bolas seems like a little out of balance. I mean, they did fight. They had a giant fight, and Nicol Bolas disappeared, and Ugin was left in his cocoon. So my guess is Nicol Bolas will be showing up with his gem of becoming above his head, and his Kid Street clap horns. That's a kids game show reference. Yeah. Who knows? There's only 44 cards spoiled. There's a bunch more to come. We'll cover more of them next week. Yeah. So join me on the next episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, YouTubers. I'm gonna wrap this up, and I'm gonna start getting down to the nitty gritty and putting up some pictures on here. That's why this space is open over here. Yeah. So I want you to have fun with it for the next week, for the next couple days. Whenever the next time I can get on the mic, I will. And thanks for watching.